is this such an odd proportion? What is happening? There we go. I'm some weird monster. I don't actually put my my Chrome like web browser full screen. Nope, that's still kind of weird though. What the fuck happened? Why is it like this? I might just do monitor capture if it works. There we go. Okay. That looks better. So let's take a look at these together. Hello. So I've seen some people talking about them, but this is like a first impression video. I haven't really taken any time to look at it. In the excitement before the culmination of this year's finals, we think it's a good opportunity to revisit the proposals made earlier in the month with a fresh perspective. Sure you do. After watching further games and following feedback, there are a few changes we'd like to make to the testing queue. So, not something they're 100% going to do, guys. Don't panic if there's something weird. It's just, it's again proposed. It could change, and it probably will change. At least once more before they actually implement it. Reverted, Viking health is not going to be increased. Concerns around the Vikings' subsequent increased power in TVT and increased strength in early parts of the game. Yes, this is true. If the Vikings any deficiencies, it's because of endgame units and area effect abilities. Instead, tackle the Vikings' strength in late game with alterations to endgame units from other races, such as Tempests, rather than the Viking itself. That's fine with me. I think they actually acknowledge the actual problem. The Viking buff to health would have been a band-aid solution. So battlecruisers also no longer have increased cooldown, so they're not getting nerfed. The neural parasite is going to require... This is so weird when they say reverted. And okay, the neural parasite is going to have to be researched. Then this is alter. Tactical jump now stuns and puts the battlecruiser into a 1 second vulnerability phase. I think it was a different amount of... Like, it was something slightly different. Maybe more second vulnerability? I don't remember. Battlecruiser related changes. We believe the ways in which battlecruisers currently used are overall pretty cool. I agree with that. The feedback, we like to prune and alter changes. That we improve the feeling of fairness when fighting against battlecruisers, which is true. And once they get to like 6 battlecruisers, it starts to feel a little unfun. Leading changes, tactical jump, reinstating no parasite. With one key alteration. So there's still going to be a vulnerability phase. The stun effects such as interference matrix, fungal growth, and abduct will no longer be able to cancel tactical jump. Okay. So... Hold on. And stuns to 1 second vulnerability phase before it teleports. Okay. Taking away the stun effects from the tactical jump is actually like a pretty big buff. If it's stun, can it attack? Now, that's the whole point of stun. And if it's not, then, you know, that's crazy. That's supposed to be what the stun does. It's like watching, recalling units. The units don't attack anymore. So that's in my eyes, like interference matrix no longer taking away the teleport is like a huge deal for anyone who faces battlecruisers in their matchups. It's not very popular in pro games, so I'm not like really that worried about it as a Terran player. But there are games where I face some early battlecruiser users, and it's like lol. I go Ravens guy. Fungal growth being taken away as a stun is the biggest deal, I feel. Abduct was already a little hard to get off. But there was a lot of situations where you could hide your infestors and barely get the fungal growth. And it caused, you know, the Terran player to always have to scan ahead if they wanted to use their battlecruisers, which, you know, is money. So I actually always liked that interaction. I'm not sure taking away fungal growth stun on teleport is actually good. But it does put it in line more with strategic and mass recall. I mean, that's true. But a 1 second stun is really not that long. I mean, recall has got to be longer than that, right? Is recall like 3 or something? Recall seems to take forever. This, I feel like overall, is a buff to the battlecruisers. Reverted. No more upgrades, no more additional upgrades. We had a very weird scenario that's never happened in StarCraft 2 before, where you had an upgrade for an upgrade. You had to get an upgrade to get access to another upgrade. That doesn't really exist. I mean, 2-2, I suppose, after 1-1, but you get my point. So I didn't really like it, just in line with what StarCraft 2 is. And then I also think that their attempts to push the Adept as an alternative to Zealots is just, it's not gonna happen. It's worse than making Fetch a thing. It's just, no, it's not gonna happen. They do 2 entirely different roles with how they actually work in a battle to try and replace Zealots. So then they also take away all the Adept upgrades and the Zealot upgrade and the Adept upgrade. Put a pause on these changes. I kind of hope they just can them entirely. For Zealots, we hear concerns regarding Protoss' resulting overall power level after this change. For Adepts, we hear feedback that this upgrade isn't impactful enough. If it was reintroduced, we do so with slightly altered stats. I really hope they, like, I don't mind them changing the Adepts somewhat, but to try and replace the Zealot fodder, the Zealot-centric army, it's not gonna work. But whatever, what I really want to do, man, it's their game, I guess. This is a big one. Active creep tumors may no longer be canceled. So let me tell you a story, guys. Let me tell you about Wings of Liberty, okay? In Wings of Liberty, a creep tumor could not be placed on a ramp. They had as far as I remember, a secret buff to Zerg. They didn't actually put it in the balance changes that creep tumors could be placed on ramps. It was actually a pretty dramatic, like, little sneaky thing to put in there. If they did announce it, then that's, that's me forgetting. But the point is, it was a big change in a very, very small, seemingly small way. But that did make creep spread a lot easier on maps that almost always have ramps and chokes to go through. To actually be forced to put your, a Ling or a Queen or whatever on the high ground before you could spread creep was, it was a tiny thing for most pros, but it's still like a little bit more. If you're trying to replace the Banshee, you'll harass them with them until you don't have any opinion to do so. Yeah, they're not a part of the main fight, though, unless it's an all-in. But anyways. So, that happened a long, long time ago. I'm pretty sure it was from Wings of Liberty to Heart of the Swarm, but at this point, Legacy of the Void is so old that it might have been from Heart of the Swarm or Legacy of the Void, I just don't remember. The point is, that happened, okay? Now they're doing something that might not seem like a very big deal, but it really, really is. Like this, active Q tumors may no longer be canceled. Generally, might not be the defining moment of a game. Being like, oh, if only I'd be able to cancel that creep tumor. But it could be what leads to this, like, okay, why are Zergs struggling a little bit? And it could be one of those, like, oh, because they just don't have as much creep as before. Not canceling creep tumors is really quite big. I mean, it helps all the Terran drops really thrive. The Hellion harassment will really thrive. Like, not even the drops, really. Drops will just generally kill creep tumors. But it's kind of about the early game Reaper, the early Hellions that find a line of creep tumors, and then, they just cancel them because it's the active creep tumors, and you're like, cool, you have APM to do that. All right, that's fair. And then you go and try and do more harassment. Hellions haven't actually been able to deny creep spread in so long. Like, they're not there to deny creep spread. They're there to protect your third command center, or threaten a hellbound attack. That might change the Hellions, and this is exactly what they even say in this blurb. We're going to try to take it a step further with this change and the dance we typically see between Hellions and Queens. We believe the change will increase both the interaction between players and the skill cap for all parties involved. having to really protect your creep as opposed to just being like, you know, it's there and it's gonna stay there, I think does increase the difficulty for Zerg, even if it doesn't seem like a big deal. As far as early game Protoss, there might be a little more like Adept Shades canceling a creep spread, which could be one of those like, what went wrong in this game? Oh, we didn't have an extra creep tumor. You know, very, very small things, but it could happen. I think the Adepts, you know, obviously they never really are looking for creep tumors. They're scouting and looking to get into the middle of the mineral lines, but, you know, with ZVP, you have like maybe 2 extra queens, but sometimes only 1 extra queen spreading creep. And to get it killed, the creep tumor killed, and then having to wait for 25 more energy, it's a small, big thing. I think a lot of non-Zergs like this, and a lot of Zergs are worried that it'll be too impactful. Where am I on this? I mean, I'm a non-Zerg, but I'm actually just curious how this would affect the game. You know? It's kind of like we saw at one point an extra larva added into an inject, and it was like, will this just break the game? But obviously that's a bit different. It's just, it might be something where Zerg players, along with every other change here, that's directly noticeable. Like, you would just be like, oh, they no longer have this, they no longer have that. This might not be super noticeable at first, but then you really analyze a game and you're like, motherfucker, it's because I didn't have that extra creep tumor. Anyways, Overlord, this was like, I 100% expected them to do this, even though I'm not sure it is the thing they do. But pneumatized carapace is no longer going to be reduced in cost. What is their reasoning for this? Initially made the change to reduce the cost of this upgrade. Seeing feedback, the different variations of various PvZ and Mortal lanes, which is difficult, right? That's what started that. As Zerg have gotten better at defending these all-ins, and they have, and not because they're scouting them better. And the changes to the Warp Prism in the same patch were alone sufficient at dealing with this issue. Yeah, agreed. It's currently too omnipresent in both ZVT and ZVP. I'd like to revert this previous change. More thoughtful decision making regarding when to research this upgrade. Can't really argue with that. There's still some, you know, people getting around the pneumatized carapace opener. There's still some trying to abuse it. As in, like, you know, looking for opportunities to run their Hellions in, and give false information. But in general, it does seem like it's way too easy to fit in. And again, 25-25 might not seem like a lot, but when it's early game, and when it includes gas, this is an extra drone, either on it or not on it, and still getting it at a decent time. It's a pretty big deal. So I am on board with that. The only reason that I'm like, is this actually like super necessary, is that they maybe could have just changed other things about the Zerg's defense. But I doubt we're going to see any touch to the queen or anything in the early game, so. Stukov is not pleased. We'll get to Infested Terrans right now. Infestors no longer have Infested Terrans. Now it'll be a co-op thing. New ability, microbial. Oh god, I have to learn a new word. Oh god, learning words. What is this, school? Microbial? Microbial. I feel like I should know how to say this word, and I really actually can't even think of how to say it. You know what? Let's do this. Well, I know microbes. God, that's not... There we go. Microbes, microbial. Wow, I can't do it, guys. Let's learn words. Stop it.
Yo. Greetings on this channel. Now you will see how pronounce this word. Let's start. Microbial.
No. Microbial?
Microbial.
Microbial? No, I don't believe it.
Microbial.
Microbial. That's what I was gonna go with. Microbial. You don't deserve your 86 views, word box. Get out of here. Okay. Microbial. I don't want to say that. Microbial shroud. Microbial would be like a Ravager. First year should be illegal. Creates a shroud that obscures ground units below, reducing the damage taken from air units by 50%. I feel like there's a lot of problems with this. Lasts 11 seconds? What is this? Old fucking, what is it called? Blinding Cloud? Wait, what is Blinding Cloud? What was Blinding Cloud? Is my bad. What was Blinding Cloud? Oh, they don't actually show notes here. All right, so not consume. There we go. Blinding Cloud. Its duration is now 5.7, but that's not always what it has been. Here we go. Here we go. Ah, yes. Oh my God, it's even longer than Blinding Cloud used to be. What? Ugh. Blinding Cloud with 10 seconds was just not fun to watch. You just were like, as a caster, you'd be like, oh my God, the Blinding Cloud is still in effect. I guess the Zerg player wins. Okay, cool. And as a player, you're just like, well, this is cool. God, this is gonna last 11 seconds. All right. Okay. All right. And it's also going to be a research thing. Okay. Not the longest research either, 80 seconds. 150, 150. Okay. I'm all right. I'm all right, guys. Energy costs 100. That is considerable. Cast range 9. 9. Its radius is only 3. Radius 3. Is that all close to the new EMP? Thank God for Google. .5. Oh, to 2. Okay, so one more than the new MP. So it doesn't sound like it's gonna be that big, but yeah, I mean it's a little big. Blinding Cloud's radius is 2, so it's actually it doesn't like 3 doesn't sound like a big number, but it's kind of big. Bitstorm, thank you for the 2-month resub. It's like a worse Dark Swarm, it is. Give it maybe like a dozen Hydras. That's still a decent amount. Let's say it's a full hotkey, but this isn't Brood War. So what does it do here? Creates a shroud that obscures ground units. Reducing the damage you take from air units by 50%. So, I think visually this won't be that difficult to show. It's the first thing I was afraid of, but I think it'll be fine. Like, it'll be probably pretty clear which one's underneath and what's actually an air unit. Let's see if their reasoning is. Not completely shelving the proposed changes, we try an alternate proposal. Place anti-air roll. More of a force multiplier rather than a standalone spell with lethal potential. Mass infestors will be significantly less powerful than before. You'll have to mix in other ground units. You can't just go mass infestor and that's your anti-air. Which is good. I like that idea. The idea to just like whatever stops mass spellcasters is good, even if the idea itself is a little complicated. Yeah, it's not really like Dark Swarm at all. You could say it's a worse Dark Swarm because Dark Swarm is some OP bullshit, but you know, that's just an opinion. But it is more like a Guardian Shield. I am very concerned, though, that it's too strong. Rather, Blinding Cloud hurts enemy units and helps your units. So turn it into... Oh, like change Blinding Cloud entirely? So it stops enemy units from attacking and then gives a buff to your units? Something like that? Well, I like the general direction of pushing it into more of a spellcaster. When we say spellcaster, it means a spell, it means energy, sure. But when I think of a spellcaster, I think of those that are, like, often supplements as opposed to just the thing to go for. Now, I know Storm and High Templars exist, and that's just a direct, you know, the opposite thing of what I'm saying. But I like the idea of something that is just helpful as opposed to spammable. Which the Infestors, there's no arguing that they were spammable. High Templars have different issues that don't make them necessarily spammable, even if they are difficult to deal with. Double as Microbial Shroud. Need smaller radius. I am hesitant to add any additional effects to spells that already exist. Right? You know what I'm getting at? Like, Blinding Cloud both stopping units from attacking as well as benefiting your army is actually making it almost into two different spells. Which I don't think is in line with StarCraft's, like, simple philosophy. Because we'd have to sit there as casters and explain, like, okay, the Blinding Cloud's going to stop these tanks from shooting, but if the Hydras move into it, then they actually get a buff. Which is a bit different than what we're usually tasked with. Thank you, EU Banks, for the Twitch Prime sub. I also actually really enjoy Blinding Cloud having a friendly fire, if you will. That, you know, it also blocks the units from shooting up. I get what you're getting at, though. You'd rather just have the Infestors have one less ability. I mean, it's certainly possible. But for now, thinking about how this is going to work, I think this actually might be just too powerful. So some people have talked about, you know, Here Marine already playing on the balance test map, which is cool. It took on Liberators, it took on Carriers. Carriers especially.
Thank you for appeasing the Overmind.
Yeah, I can see how Hydras would now be able to tackle it. It is 100 energy, though, so, like, the Infestor's gonna be able to cast one of them, each Infestor, so it's not extremely spammable. If the Carriers just move out of position, then it was a big deal. And Liberators will still have a decent shot, but reducing any damage from air by 50%, that's a lot. That's a lot. Thank you too much, Razmataz. Razzle Dazzle Razmataz with Twitch Prime sub. I wouldn't mind it if it was like 30% maybe. Or put it like a Guardian Shield where it reduces damage by 1 or 2 or whatever, but let me think here. So this is also kind of unique in the fact that its description is percentage based, as opposed to any type of 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, you know what I... Like... Yeah, and carriers can still get fungled with this. But if they fungle, they can't do the ability. It's such a high energy cost, that is its redeeming factor. But anyways, like, the description of a spell or an attack being percentage, I'm trying to think, does it exist anywhere else? Usually it's like ticks, you know, like a storm does X amount of damage every tick, and a tick is blank seconds. Like, that's usually how we describe area of effect damage, or, you know, a spell lasts for this long, like with Blinding Cloud. To have to do 50%, and then, like, I know math on stream, I'm not just being here complaining caster, it's supposed to, there's a lot of things that have always lined up with StarCraft 2's, like, keep it simple philosophy, which is not their official name of it or anything like that, but it's just what I'm using now as I talk about these changes. StarCraft 2 doesn't just have its balance and imbalance and, like, what makes the game change too much. It also has, it's had this idea, you know, underlying every decision they've ever made, where they want to keep things in line. They want to keep things simple yet, you know, understandable, yet, you know, strategically very impactful. And when they start doing things like, for instance, the upgrade on top of the upgrade for the Twilight Council, they change everything that has been set as rules in StarCraft 2, even if it's, you know, even if that sounds dramatic and it's really not, it is still something that is new and different. For them to now have an upgrade that's going to reduce it by 50%, instead of just reduce it by 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, is also going to be a new take on how they approach spells. So just something to think about. I would prefer that they keep it in line with reduced damage by X points as opposed to 50%. But they probably have their reasons for doing 50% specifically. More content on YouTube? Yeah. EV triple.
Resubscription received. Apparently you are doing something.
Also, if you use defensive versus Protoss, it sounds like it lasts way too long. Yeah, like defensively, or let's say in the middle of the map, it might not matter so much that it lasts 11 seconds. Yeah, again, the carriers might be able to escape, the Protoss army escapes, Terran army, whatever. But if it is used offensively, imagine that thing just sitting on the ground for 11 seconds. That is long enough to have one attack, you know, get your reinforcements collected and then go for another attack. Not from a, you know, entirely across the map, but still the 10 Hydras that are just now coming in can get collected and attack again, and you have 11 seconds. And there's nothing that I'm thinking of Protoss. There's nothing that Protoss can do to get rid of this. There's no, what, flare spell, I guess? On a medic. Thank you, Dan Mo Gaming, for the 2-month resub. I don't know where I stand on this ability in general, as I TLDR this. I don't like that it's a percentage base. Just whatever, with everything else that's ever been done in StarCraft, this is kind of new in that regard. And I don't like how long it lasts. But I do like the general idea of getting an ability that's not spammable. And 100 energy is certainly not spammable. Haven't gotten there yet, Mr. Gabriel. I'm gonna say I like the idea of it, and we'll see how it works out with tweaks to the numbers. Okay. Irritation's ability is gated on Hive, so very, very late game. I like that. It's one of those experimental and unique abilities ever introduced. We expect many alterations. So point of clarification, the first iteration of the spell will not protect buildings nor colossi. Did they mean against buildings nor colossi? Because if it doesn't protect Colossus, I'm like, team games? Like, what? I think actually that is what they mean. It won't protect buildings. It won't protect your hatchery. And it won't protect your partner's Colossi. Yeah. And then they also say, nor will it protect against Oracle attacks, Colossus attacks, or Yamato cannon. Oracle attacks are spell damage. Colossus attacks are considered ground attacks. And Yamato cannon is also a spell. Can also not be cast while the infestor is burrowed. Alright. I'm getting to the zealots, guys. Stop getting ahead. Jesus. Back. This ability probably won't be in co-op EU banks. They don't patch co-op along with the 1v1 patches. Nidus room costs, and that's such a it's such a stupid point to even bring up, but I just wanna throw it out there. Yeah, team games, then yes. That's where they're specifying it won't help protect Colossus. Nidus room costs increased. We definitely need to see this. Nidus rooms are strong. I actually think that they're still too strong. I think the main problem with Nidus rooms isn't just that they're a little spammy. You know, you can only make one Nidus worm head from one Nidus worm butt, but they're still a little spammy because they're so cheap. It's just how the Nidus worm works. Thank you, Ronin of Dreams, for the 23-month resub. Good day to you, ZG and crew. You've been trucking along. Wonderful content. Thank you. This rendition still has the cooldown for worms. I assume so, yeah. This is kind of on top of / changing the last proposed changes, so that is still something to consider. I will rant after we read the reasoning here. We generally enjoy the increased usage of Nidus rooms this year. Okay. We believe one of the keys to its increased usage is its decreased worm cost, 50-50. At the moment, we believe Nidus rooms are slightly too cheap, so we're going to do a middle-of-the-road thing. Third of the Nidus could pin too much of an enemy army at home. We already have 2 proposed changes to the Nidus network. We will be evaluating which of the changes should go through, including the possibility of having all 3 go live. At the same time, however, we want to ensure we preserve a certain percentage of the Nidus room's power. As we believe it is key to encouraging map-wide multi-pronged attack options for Zerg and pulling apart turtling enemies in the late game. See, that I don't think I agree with. That, like, alongside the other 2 changes, I think it's going to be fine. Because it's, other 2 changes are, it has a 14-second cooldown, which starts when the Nidus room starts, by the way. So it's not as long, right? As it seems, but still. It also will have an upgrade to make it faster to unload and load. So just basic Nidus worms will be a little slower there. I just want to point out that this is actually not... I don't think this is true. What happens right now when we see Nidus worms, it's not in an epic multitasking battle against a mech or a mech Terran trying to get the battle cruisers and turtling with a bunch of tanks, and we're like, what does the Zerg do? Oh, I know, it's gonna go for Nidus. Like, that's not really what we see. Right now we see Nidus worms being used and abused against Protoss players at their fragile state of having 3 bases and not quite getting to 4. Which isn't really turtling. That's just how their race is. Like, it's not their, you know, us being like, wow, defending with Archons and Immortals is really cool, guys. No, they're just getting torn apart. This is like the idea that they had with Swarm Hosts. Like, they'll break apart turtling enemies, I guess, but also they'll pull apart poor Protoss players who are just trying to, like, live day to day and get their 3rd and 4th bases up. Hey, what's the duo that's the problem right now? Is Storm Host and Nidus Worm. So, I've actually liked their reasoning for every other change, except this one I think is just wrong. I think this is wrong. That doesn't mean that the Nidus Worm changes are bad, though. I think all 3 of them combined would make them perhaps a little too useless. So I'd say 2 out of 3 of them. I'd say 2 out of 3 of these proposed changes. But anyways. I love the word multi-pronged there. When I pop out the Swarm Host on the left side first, then on the right side of the map, then I totally killed a Protoss base on multiple prongs. Yeah. Borsty with the, perfect description there. Anyways, reasoning bad, changes might still be good. Reasoning for Nidus worms being good is bad. Changes might still be good. Zealot change. The charge upgrade no longer provides zealots with +8 damage on impacts. Instead, it increases zealot movement speed from 3.15 to 4.72, up from 4.13. So this is a big deal. Fear Dragon tweeted that they are as fast as stimmed Marines, which sucks. That's a big deal. Let's get the... Whoops, everything. Let's get that in writing here. They are the fastest. They are a 3.6 or 4.63, 4.73. Math is hard. Oh my god. Wait, did I do that right? 7 plus... No, so, oh my god, it actually is exactly the same. 4.72, that's what it is. That's what math is hard, guys. But yeah, that's 4.72. That's exactly the speed of a Sim Marine. That is not good. This is coming from someone who hasn't seen this interaction and could be totally wrong, and it's fine. But I see that, and I'm like, yikes, dog. Yikes. I don't do math on stream. I was really close. I was just one off. I just 7 + 5 wrong. It's a yikes. Basically, when a Terran player, like, so the interaction right now is a Terran player sees charge outs, goes, oh fuck, and starts to prepare to kite. The Zealots get one opportunity to try and go for a surround, and then that's pretty much it. Then they start to lag behind, leaving a lot of room for the Terran to micro against other units and against other, you know, and against the charge outs themselves. They won't have that initial, oh fuck, please don't hurt me charge anymore that Terrans have to be scared of if they're not paying attention to their army. How many times have Terran died because they weren't paying attention and got totally surrounded by the Zealots? But it will make it so that once the Zealots are in range, you are stutter stepping to run away more than you're stutter stepping to get damage done. You actually will just be running away because the actual threat of Zealots isn't necessarily the upfront damage. It's the fact that they can surround your army if you're not careful, which just feels like it's going to be worse when they're their same speed as Stim, forcing you to also always base damage as opposed to Stim, kite, and then when the engagement's done, run away without having to Stim again as you both disengage. I'm scared of this, but I'm also scared of charge lots in general, so we'll see. Can I, for Twitch games, just say build Marauders? Yeah. That is, you know, that is important to note. You know, Marauders will slow Zealots overall. They don't do damage on charge impact. They still have charge. So it really is quite concerning. If they took away the initial oh shit charge, like that, maybe. But with charge and keeping up with the stimmed army, that seems way too much. It's that, like, and I wonder why. What were they doing in their practice games that they were like, Zealots should be the same speed as stimmed Marines? This also means that microing against small numbers of Zealots with small number of units is going to be more difficult. Like, you could send, like, a couple of Ghosts, for instance, which aren't too bad against Zealots. Against a 4-Zealot run-by. Get hit once and then be like, okay, I'm out of here, but now the Ghost just won't ever survive against lone. Like, if it's alone, if it's lagging behind now, the Zealots will not just get a charge shot in, they will just simply chase after the Ghosts and kill them. This changes a lot of interactions. This is also constantly... the more I think about this, the more I can't wrap my head around it. This is constantly as fast as a stimmed Marine when a stim takes health away from your army. There is a downside to stim, even though medevacs are there to literally balance out that downside. There's still a downside. There's no downside to this. What the fuck? It's real frustrating trying to get your Zealots up against Bio that's stemming away. That's how it should be. Zealots are the least micro potential, and any amount of micro that you actually have to do, because God forbid you have to match the stutter step micro of a fucking Terran player running away, is good. You're gonna sit here and be like, Marauders show me Zealots, and sometimes when I chase the army with the Zealots, it doesn't actually reach the army. I think it's gonna be a great change. I'm just gonna say, get out. What a complaint. God. Ugh. What a complaint. Sometimes I have to make it so my Zealots go one other direction and then encapsulate the Terran army as opposed to just chasing the army all the way to Kingdom Come. Oh, God. Oh, get out of here, Probe Scout Samuel. Get out, Jesus. Oh, God. Ay, 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 ay. Let's actually take it to another matchup. Yeah, sitting here just complaining about Terran. Let's take it to the Zerg matchup. Let's see what happens with the Zerg matchup when they're as fast as Stim Marines. Roach Micro, which is already difficult to do against Zealots. Even on creep. Like, sometimes, you don't have that Roach speed when a charge load attack comes in. You don't have a lot of creep spread versus Protoss. It can be difficult to do. Now it's even going to be more difficult to do. Because again, like, the pure damage from charge was a bummer. The 8 damage from just being charged, a guaranteed damage attack, was a bummer. The real bummer is getting surrounded by Zealots, which just seems more likely when they're as fast as Stim Marine. How fast are Zerglings compared to them? Well, Zerglings should still be the fastest unit. But how much faster we're going to see? They have 6.58. So still, like, much faster. The OG 2019 balance was on track with Zerg Changes. Honestly, I forget what it was. It was up here. Wasn't it? There it is. So they initially had an upgrade to get the +8 damage. God, I'd hate to say it, but yeah. I don't mind giving Zealots more speed. If they want to make charge, give them movement speed to 4.4, I don't fucking know, then I might be like, we'll see what happens. Yeah, all right. But to make them they just jump to as fast as a Stim Marine. Okay, they just jumped over the pond across all these little islands of, like, hey, maybe we'll try this first. No, right past that into the island of what the fuck? Why? So I'm hoping that this is just one of those things where they're like, it'll be so good, people will use it and we'll see what the interaction is and then we'll scale back. Because that is a lot of the times what they intend to do. Charlottes are a whole 1 speed point faster than Hydras off of creep. So Hydras would never escape, ever. This is not going to go through. We're all coming up with so many different scenarios where fast Zealots are terrifying. As fast as Corruptors? Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well, Bayesian, is like, maybe they didn't have charge, it'd be, considering it, but they have charge and this. And just in general, I just don't think that this also just changes the idea of the Zealot, which the Zealot is beefy, but still microable. Like, we still have the speed on top of it. We still have the micro against them to work out, because otherwise they're pretty basic units to use. This just changes them to an actual fast unit. I will consider them like Speedlings, although obviously not nearly as fast as Speedlings with this upgrade, because it's constant. There's no downside to it. They'll be fast. They'll be as fast as, oh my god, fast as Cyclones. What if Voids are that fast with speed? I wouldn't actually be that scared. You can make a test mod, I know. I've only been in this video game for 10 years, dude. I know there's a balance test ladder. The issue is usually that there's not a lot of people playing on it. Use Zealots and run away from Speed Roach as soon as they come to defend. Yeah. Anyways, Zealots equals speed tanklings, yeah. What is their excuse? Regarding Zealots, it's raw frontal power when compared to its ease of use and the relative difficulty of defending against them. Okay. So far, so good. We'd like to try this change that aims to exchange its direct power in favor of increased mobility. The age-old relationship between weapon-upgraded Zealots and the Carapace-upgraded Zerglings. Doesn't matter. Because an exchange of damage for speed moves its power into a drastically different area, we categorize this change as very experimental. We especially be looking at how the increased speed impacts the relationship against kiting simmed units. I feel like this is just one thing you'd look at and be like, it doesn't work. Let's just like turn it down a bit. Let's put it at 4.62 and then send it out. Like why immediately set it up to stim marine speed? I don't get that. But whatever. We know this is bad. We wanted to see it just once. See, that is kind of what they're saying. And they do a lot of those. They intentionally make something really strong so people will use it, and then they scale it back. I really don't agree with making it that strong. That is just going up. That is cranking the knob right up to 100. Should be able to kite with Marines a bit, like theoretically. Apparently, BC Cutie is right now testing out the Zealots. Woo! Like everyone's streaming right now. Jeez, oh flip. He hasn't gotten the Zealots yet. I guess I'll do my own little test. Adapt Resident Glaive reworked. Instead of increasing attack speed, by the way, guys, if you were here for the beginning of Legacy of the Void, this is like the 50th time they've changed Adept's upgrades. Instead of increasing attack speed by the Adept by 50%, 45%, I said 50, it will increase the attack speed of the Adept by 60% for 6 seconds after completing a psionic transfer. Don't like that. And it's not anything to do with the actual, percentage or how long it lasts or anything like that. That is just another one of those things that StarCraft doesn't have that many weird upgrades. It doesn't have all these rules to it. You can kind of predict what a StarCraft unit will do based on the way that other StarCraft units interact. This one is, again, one of those this is like a more of a MOBA upgrade or skill than it is a StarCraft 2 thing. And I don't like that. I really don't. Let's see the reasoning. The Udeps is having two primary problems. Its role overlaps that of the Zealot. Kind of. It is viewed as having low utility in late game, which I believe is due to the Zealot overshadowing it. Can I just take a second and say that it's okay if every unit doesn't fucking belong in every part of the goddamn game? Not only do Zealots and Adepts have similar matchups against enemy units, they both control and function similarly. That's not true. I disagree with that. They both control and function similarly. That's not... No, they don't. But... Okay, whatever. Internally, we call these units pushers. This is especially exacerbated by the previous version of Resident Glaive's upgrade. Takes away from its distinctiveness and coolness, which you believe comes from its psionic transfer ability. The new direction we'd like to take with the Adept is to rework the Resident Glaive's upgrade into one that moves it away from the direction of being a strong pusher and towards one that highlights the Adept's defining characteristic, the psionic transfer. So basically, someone's like, you know what's cool about the Adepts? This thing. We should buff this thing. That's fine. Except I don't like the direction of buffing they're doing with it. Someone, if anyone's watching the BCQD stream and gets like a clip of the Zealots doing stuff, like if you can send me that, that'd be great. You don't see me complaining about the Reaper not having a role because the Marine overshadows it. That's exactly what I was thinking. You're right, it does feel MOBA-esque. That's my real problem with it. This newly designed upgrade, Adepts will achieve only 92% of its previous upgrade damage. Excuse me? Only 92%, so 8% less? Okay, whatever. When used optimally, However, it will become much more effective at burst damage. After a shade in for surprise worker harassment, we need to break a marine tank push. Same time, we'll have obvious counterplays, such as bailing, Widow Mines, building walls, running away. This new upgrade could add a back and forth dance when both players attempt to engage during the preferred adept state. Adepts will be more pointed and overlap less with the Zealot, especially mid and late game. As with other experimental changes, the stats of this ability are subject to change. Nope, don't like it. Nope, I don't care if it's 100% for 6 seconds, if it's 15% for 6 seconds. I don't like this direction of StarCraft. It's MOBA. It's having to study a single unit to understand how its attacks work, as opposed to just being like, well, those are laser beams going in a cross pattern from the Colossus, so they probably deal damage in a cross pattern. Gotcha. This is figuring out first that the Adept Shade is a thing. You can do it. Figuring out all the rules of the Adept Shade, like it goes through force fields but not through buildings. And then also on top of that, timing it out with the 6 seconds after the psionic transfer. I really don't like that. And I don't even want to talk about how the actual, like, game will be impacted if this goes through. I just don't like the changing that. That's the direction they're going with this unit. Is like MOBA-esque. The no charge damage is still showing. What do you mean? Would buffing the transfer another way, like more speed, lower cooldown, be better? Yeah. Adept shading ability itself is kind of weird for StarCraft. Agreed. The change also makes me feel like it forces even more decisive engagements by Protoss. Also agreed. I can comment on one thing. I don't actually like the idea of burst damage. The problem already with a lot of Protoss all-ins, the reason why we perceive Protoss as bullshit instead of the other races, even when the other races could be imbalanced and Protoss is actually the weak one. The reason that's been the thing to happen for flipping 10 years of StarCraft isn't because Protoss has had dominating periods of OP-ness. It's because when they actually have a build that is effective, it feels like you can't do anything against it. It's just like, oh, okay, cool, I didn't see that charge at all in and I got surrounded, I guess I die. Super awesome. Like, it doesn't feel fun. So you're changing the Adepts now into probably just a stronger all-in, not actually something that's going to be used in the late game. This isn't... I don't see how this is going to make them a different option from Zealots when it comes to mid and late game, but whatever. And it's going to be even worse. You're going to, like, you know, not raise the wall against Adepts, and they're going to do a burst damage, and it's going to kill your entire army, and then they have 5 more seconds to kill whatever they want. That doesn't seem like it's going to be fun. Now, streamer, that's only if you equip the Adepts with Boots of Speed. You should put tangos on those Adepts? What the hell are tangos? Trouble. The Adept change is going to be crazy for Neeb, though. He does like his Adept attacks in PvZ. Dota thing? Oh. What is this? Dota stream? Anyways, not a big fan. I hope they never go through with it. I hope they just drop the whole change the Adept thing entirely. Mothership added heroic tag. Neuroparasite can no longer target heroic units. That's good. I like that. It's probably what should have happened all those years ago when Mothership Vortex was the only option against Brood Infestor. But of course now it also can't be abducted, maybe? Well, hold on. Can it still be abducted? It's just a no parasite. Never mind. Well, it's still a buff. So I'm, you know, I like it. Oh wait, no. We have concerns of the power swing gained from abducting and then neural. Okay, yeah. Heavily leans into its gameplay fantasy, a Mothership will always be able to contribute to the fight in favor of the Protoss player. This just makes sense. It sucks they can still be abducted, but it makes sense that it shouldn't, you know, go to the other side. Bug fixes. Bug fixes from what? Oracle Void Ray and Sentry update to prevent weapons from firing slower than intended. Oh, this is in the test ladder, the bug fixes. Okay. Okay. And this is the full changes, which are quite a bit. I'm like half and half on this update. Half of it seems to make a lot of sense and I'm okay with it. And the other half is just like, no, you will never go through with this, and I hope you never do. Halfsies. That was fun. Let's see if people are playing on the test ladder.